Yo everyone, it's me, Buster Green, and I am officially 825 hours away from getting monetized. So if you could please watch my videos today for 825 hours, that will get me monetized. Thank you. Alright, so the strange powers that be in the universe have forced me to review Kamen Rider SD. And since I've already reviewed Fudo PIs, reviewing Kamen Rider SD will officially mean that I will have reviewed every single piece of Kamen Rider related anime, and that's pretty cool. So that's the main reason I'm doing it. So before we get into it, there are technically two shows called SD Kamen Rider. The first one is the SD Kamen Rider OVA. It is a one-shot OVA from 1993. This is the first Kamen Rider anime ever made. It was produced to promote the Kamen Rider SD manga that ran for 22 volumes from 1992 to 1999, which is pretty nuts. I guess it was just that popular. See, SD Kamen Rider was a big thing in the 90s. There was this huge SD boom in the 90s. Just SD characters were everywhere. It mostly came from SD Gundam establishing it in the 80s. But yeah, then it was just like, hey, Kamen Rider can be SD too, so here he is. Like, there were a lot of SD Kamen Rider video games, toys, all kinds of shit. I'm guessing this OVA was made to promote those. There are also these long-running SD Great Battle games for Super Nintendo where SD Kamen Rider and SD Gundam would have like a face-off, and those are awesome. Like, a few of those games are really fun. A few of them are really hard. I played all of them already. That being said, maybe I should have reviewed the SD Gundam OVAs because they have a lot more episodes. And in general, I just think the jokes are funnier. But you know, I'm a Gundam guy, so Gundam jokes are always going to hit me funnier. Now, despite the fact Kamen Rider SD was a one-shot-in-pan OVA from the 90s, surprisingly, recently the concept was revisited with the release of Kamen Rider 01 SD. And as it turns out, I've actually watched this already because I'm in the middle of a deep binge of Kamen Rider 01 right now. And I wasn't going to bring this up because it kind of sucked, but screw it. Since you guys forced me to talk about it, and since we're on the topic, I'll talk about it. Now, real quick, Kamen Rider 01 completely rules. I have a lot of issues with modern Kamen Rider series being a little bit too goofy, sometimes a little bit too insane. They're just trying to sell toys, and 01 is surely definitely trying to sell toys. Of course, despite all these issues though, Kamen Rider 01, yeah, it's toyetic, yeah, it's insane, but I'm okay with the general concept of a child running a company. And I mean, I've definitely seen enough animes where a child runs a company, so I'm familiar with this concept enough to accept it. I also like that the main character in 01 is literally a failed stand-up comedian who became a superhero. It's really refreshing to see a failed stand-up comedian become a superhero, because in America, failed stand-up comedians only become supervillains. And lastly, I guess the robot villains of the show are just interesting enough to work as a concept. Now anyway, the overall motif of 01 is that you're going to get some screwy robot comedy action, and I would in fact so far define it as probably one of the few Kamen Rider shows that I would consider at this point to be 100% a comedy and not a sci-fi post-humanoid body horror melodrama, despite the fact it contains aspects of that. So you would think a comedy show would great material for a comedy parody show, right? Well, you're wrong. Unfortunately, SD Kamen Rider 01 wholly sucks. It only has 5 short episodes, but in those 5 episodes, there were literally only 2 jokes. Joke number 1, the bad guys in the show have a hard time pronouncing the name of their bad guy group because it's a long-ass name, and also they're bad at pronouncing words. This evolves into a few of them playing a wordplay game off and on. But, yeah, this isn't very funny. Like, this joke is, like, funny, I guess, if you're 8 years old. But, yeah, there's, like, no other good jokes. The only other main reoccurring joke of the series is that Aruto hates artichokes. And I would think this would be a wordplay thing, but the awkward fan subs in the version I'm watching, these fan subs artichokes as butterbean roots, but nah, that's totally an artichoke. And I don't know if you guys have had an artichoke before, but these things are fucking wonderful. Artichokes are one of the best tasting vegetables on the entire planet. They're like literally nature's nachos. So yeah, in my opinion, SD Kamen Rider 01, weak comedy. They went for the low-hanging fruit of mispronunciation jokes, followed by a total attack hit piece on my beloved artichokes. And on top of that, SD01 has this shit tier 1990s flash animation that shows a complete lack of skill and effort. It looks like the show was animated by like 5th graders who like needed like fucking lunch money. It's so disappointing. So let's start our day off by giving SD Kamen Rider 01 a 2 out of 10. Pros: contains the entire cast of Kamen Rider 01. Cons: it wastes the entire cast of 01. It has shit flash animation. It has a thing against artichokes. It seems that the show just has zero effort put into it, and it completely lacks in substance and or coolness. Now with that out of the way, I'll actually review the SD Kamen Rider OVA from the 90s that everyone's been begging me to watch. Alright, so this OVA seems to have come out right after RX, so it's full of RX jokes, and that's great for me because I feel like RX was the last Showa Rider show I finished. And also, this OVA is kind of a full showcase for the entire Showa Riders that existed at the time, so that honestly makes me happy. The opening is a real head-scratcher. On the one hand, the song is super annoying. It screams toy commercial, but then it's got this god hand-drawn 1990s OVA animation that just looks so fucking good. Like, look at the vague city pop tones of this building here. Like, look at this beautiful pink city. I want to go there. Oh, and I should mention that the OVA writers like have all basically formed like subgroups. I'll get more into it when they come up, but like for now, like our main group is RX, Ichigo, and Z-Cross. But yeah, the animation on this OVA is all over the place. We got some really cheap cuts that were obviously phoned in, but then we have these like really complicated cuts that are just pure works of art, like rivaling top tier modern day stuff. So our story starts off in the desert, where for some reason Shocker is added again, but now they've updated into Grand Shocker. And they have a dramatic pyramid super cyber base, and the SD Riders show up inside it to put a stop to that bullshit immediately. So yeah, here's the main group: Ichigo, RX, and Z-Cross. This is probably like the second biggest Z-Cross appearance like ever, which is nuts because no one just ever wants to tell stories about Z-Cross. Anyway, RX makes the Revolcane and quickly kills Showa Scorpion Man, and then makes the pyramid blow up, and then the riders escape because they all have motorcycles and they're all awesome. Now, unfortunately, Grand Shocker escapes in an escape capsule because that's just like how their castle works. It's very Dr. Wily from Mega Man, and then like there's just a castle on top of their castle that's an escape capsule. Ugh, that's a tongue twister. So then all the bad guys show up and they get some orders from the Shocker Supreme Leader, who's just like a light bulb. And by the way, one of the things I love about this episode is it's named The Bizarre Spider-Man, which you guys don't know is the same name as the first episode of the original Kamen Rider. Maybe it's lazy to call it that, but the nostalgia is getting to me. Then we see Ichigo training, and he's training at a racetrack, and Tachibana Tobe is like helping him. And we get our first dumb joke that the other two Kamen Riders are just gambling while Ichigo trains because no one told them to do anything with themselves. And Z-Cross wins the gambling and takes all RX's money. This somehow introduces a weird story about how RX is in love with a random little girl named Michiru, who from the opening seems to be like the only little girl his size. Anyway, everyone freaks out that RX has a girlfriend, and Tachibana Tobe makes a really bad pun in Japanese that the Japanese word for first love sounds very similar to the Japanese word for first fish. This is a pun. Now Z-Cross grills RX some more, and we get a really weird kaiju aerobics dance party that he went to where he met Michiru. Also, Shin Kamen Rider was there. Is Shin Kamen Rider a kaiju? Either way, this is his only cameo. Then we get some fabulously overdrawn pigeons in front of a badly drawn RX and Z-Cross on a swing set because they're kids and they go to the playground. Also, did I mention that the SD Riders live inside a giant grasshopper mecha? I don't know why. That is very random. I guess it's like a toy they were selling. It doesn't make sense. It's not explained in the plot. So then RX is randomly participating on a dating reality show to get a girlfriend, but he fails on the reality show when he gets upstaged by Rider Man. Then at the same time, Sky Rider Skypes in to tell everyone that a scandal is happening at the Olympics. And the scandal is that Kuma Otoko has shown up and spiderwebbed all the athletes and kidnapped them. And guess what? It's a shocker plot. Oh, and everyone is mad that RX is wasting time being on a reality TV show and not helping while this crisis is unfolding. So then we get a random gag with Jack Shogun and Shadow Moon, and they have an argument with each other. And I have to awkwardly say that the version of Shadow Moon in this is potentially one of the coolest Shadow Moons I've ever seen. He at least has his own agency as a villain and isn't just some brain-dead Frankenstein monster or like the overly moody, violent one from Black Sun. Anyway, Jack Shogun gets pissed off at a bug suddenly and destroys the building they're in, which scares Shadow Moon off. Then the SD Riders go to stake out a tennis court because they think the tennis players are next. Tachibana does another awkward pun joke that's a little bit funnier than the first one about the fish. Then Z-Cross transforms into a lady because his powers are very vague and, sure, why the hell not? Oh, wait, I get it! Z-Cross. Cross-dressing. Z-Cross is a cross-dresser. I get it now! Wow, that's a highbrow joke! Okay, so anyway, then he transforms again and he's being some kind of an asshole. Then Michiro shows up and they miss out on Shocker trying to like tennis some tennis players to death. And then finally the bizarre Kumo Otoko arrives and does his normal threatening thing and all the SD Riders fight him. The Shocker skeleton men are there too and they're all SD2 so they all suck. Now, meanwhile, Kumo Otoko almost kills Ichigo, but since there are like 3 riders here, they manage to like double rider kick him. Like Ichigo and Z-Cross team up to do a double rider kick. I didn't know Ichigo could do one of those with another rider besides Nigo, but I guess he can. Then Michikuru and RX get webbed up, and Kumo says he's going to eat her, so she gets kidnapped. Now, RX is completely devastated by this, and Z-Cross being an asshole is just like, move on, date another woman. Let her go. Which is hilarious because she's just been kidnapped. Now, then Tachibana Tobe dubs the group we've been following the Battle Riders and says that they need to get another group of Kamen Riders to win the fight. He suggests the Mechanical Riders. So Team Mechanical Riders is V3, Super 1, and X. Tachibana calls them on the phone, and it turns out that the Mechanical Riders are broke. They apparently live outdoors, they're homeless, and there was a blizzard recently, so now they're hiding in a cave with some bears, chilling in a hot spring. Anyway, Tobe summons them, but since they're broke, they don't know how they're going to get there. At the same time, Grand Shocker Skypes in and tells the SD Riders that they have to fight him again or Michiru is going to die. And then he gives them extremely detailed MapQuest-style directions to find the Shocker's base, but RX completely ignores them to play the Famicom. So Otoko faxes them a map, and now he's got like no excuse. He has to come. Now Z-Cross and Ichigo say they should wait for the Mechanical Riders, but RX says he won't wait because he's a young and fresh-faced individual. So then we get another comedy bit with Shadow Moon and Jack Shogun where a cockroach shows up so Jack blows up the building again. Same joke as the first time. Meanwhile, RX is driving down the road and extremely sexy 1990s city pop music is playing, and we get these sexy vistas of the Tokyo Harbor Bridge, and you see it in its full 1990s Sailor Moon splendor. And then suddenly, Shadow Moon shows up to fight RX. Now, RX and Shadow Moon have this sudden duel where RX doesn't know who Shadow Moon is and can't remember him. And then Shadow Moon explains that they went to kindergarten together, and I guess they were sumo wrestlers in kindergarten. And that is seriously their backstory in this. What the hell? Okay. So then Shadow Moon decides not to fight RX because there's not enough time to actually have them fight. So RX forgets who he is again and leaves. Meanwhile, Ichigo and Z-Cross are stuck in traffic because it's rush hour, but since they're Kamen Riders, they decide they will just drive over the buildings. Would driving over the buildings be faster than dealing with traffic? It seems like it would be like triple the distance, but whatever. So anyway, meanwhile, RX gets to the Shocker base and a bunch of spiders jump at him. Then he finally finds the World Wide Web where all the Olympic athletes from around the world are tied up. He sees Michiru, and she's also in the web, and then Otoko gets him in a death hole and throws him hella far. Ichigo and Z-Cross show up at this moment to save him, and RX suddenly rescues Michiru. So Kumo hits Michiru with an evil beam and turns her into a vicious demon. That is so 1990s because the 1990s go so hard. Suddenly, Television Fly and some kind of a cow guy show up to fight Ichigo and Z-Cross. All the Mechanical Riders are taking forever to reach the battle. Very nice callback with Television Fly. That's a good Kamen Rider villain. I remember him. He ain't no Aunt Capone, but yeah, I got fond memories of Television Fly. Cow Guy, though. I have no idea about Cow Guy. They don't mention his name, so he's not an obvious kaijin for me. I haven't seen all of X Stronger, Super, or Sky Rider, so possibly he's from one of those series. I have no idea who this cow is. Who is this cow? Comment if you know him. Anyway, so finally the mechanical riders arrive, and V3 immediately drives his Psycho into the face of the kaijin, and X and Super do the same. Super 1 brings out his electric hand to stop Otoko's evil beam, and then Michiro de-evilizes. And then the BGM turns into like some Ultra Funky's 1990 hip-hop. And the mechanical riders leave, having turned the tide of battle back to the Kamen Riders winning. So RX summons the Revolcane again, but Kumo ties him up. TV Fly and Random Cow Guy die when Z-Cross finally kicks them to death. And then RX finally uses the Revolcane to do a trippy, deadly attack. And he stabs Kumo Otoko right through the throat. And fuck yeah, RX is so violent and I love it. Goddamn 1990s Kamen Rider RX violence. Hell yeah. They should make a modern Kamen Rider RX that would be so violent. Oh wait. Anyway, so then the Shocker base explodes again for unexplained reasons, and then we flip to another group of Kamen Riders who seem to be just retired. Okay, so the retired Kamen Riders are kind of the best joke in the episode. So the retired riders are Stronger, Amazon, and Nigo. So if you've been following this show up to now, we have a group of riders who are still working, Ichigo, RX, and Zacross, a group of riders who can't get jobs, V3, Super 1, and X, and lastly, this final group of riders are comfortably retired. I don't know if you're following this the way I am, or if I'm reading too much into this, but I think this is the funniest joke in the entire episode, because it's a very real kick-in-the-balls commentary to the fact that some of the Kamen Rider actors either managed to retire after their shows successfully, or they managed to keep working, but a handful of them became unemployed after their shows finished. And I think the writers that they're pointing out in this did that. I think this is like a very like on the nose being like, oh, these guys retired, these guys could not get work. So yeah, that officially gets my award for the funniest joke in the OVA. All right, good job. That was like the only thing that honestly made me laugh. All right, so then RX tries to get Michiro to wake up, but he can't, and then he's going to give her mouth-to-mouth because he has to give her her birthday present. But right before he can do it, V3 like splashes her with a bucket of water, and then... So then V3 sweeps Michiro off her feet, takes full credit for saving her, steals the gift RX bought her, and then he beats RX up and successfully cucks him and takes his woman. And damn, that stings. That is also very real. So then RX completely fails to explain what happened, because now all of a sudden Michiro is dating V3, and it's just not polite to talk to another man's girlfriend, you know? So V3 gets a surprise win for the episode, and RX is completely robbed and screwed over. Also, Jack Shogun gets covered with bugs again, because screw that guy. The ending theme music kind of sucks too, and it shows the 4 seasons of Japan in a very unironic way that super reminds me of the ending of Mega Man 2. Alright, so that's the whole OVA. I'm not sure if I would have enjoyed more of this, but this one episode was sorta okay. Like, it kinda held my interest. It wasn't great. It had a few good jokes. Not more than 5 good jokes, but a few good jokes. Alright, so yeah, at least it was better than Kamen Rider 01 SD. I guess I'm gonna give this one a solid 6 out of 10. Pros, it was a showcase of the classic Showa writers. RX and Z-Cross really shine in this one. V3, also a surprise Chad. And I love that joke that some of the writers are unemployed or retired. Cons, this is a lot of second grade 1993 humor, and you really have to be a Showa writer superfan to really get all the jokes. Otherwise, it's just goofy. So I guess that's SD Kamen Rider. If you guys enjoyed more of this video, let me know. And from here on out, do you want me to review more Kamen Rider stuff? Or should I review more super deformed stuff? Like, do you guys want me to review the SD Gundam OVAs? Because there's a really, really funny one where Paptimus Scirocco is in a Turako eating Siruppo. Do you guys get it? Scirocco in a Turako eating Siruppo? This is a joke. Alright, anyway, leave a comment, stay subscribed. Thank you, see you later. Good night.